I can't believe it, guys. The last paper SAT is here. The December SAT is upon us, and this is going to be the College Board's last paper SAT before they transition to the new digital SAT. In this video, I'm going to give you guys my predictions for this last paper SAT. I'm going to go through what I think is going to be on the test. I'm also going to go through at the end of the video some tips for this last paper SAT. Now, in the comments down below, let me know, are you only taking the digital SAT or are you also taking this last paper SAT? Also, let me know your goal score. If you give me a goal, I can help you guys achieve it. That's what I do. Once again, if you like this content and you want to improve on the SAT, make sure to hit that subscribe button because I'm going to be dropping gems for that 1500 plus score on the paper and digital SAT. So let's get into my predictions. All right, so prediction number one, there is going to be no history passage on this SAT. On the last several SATs, my students are reporting that the history passage, the Abe Lincoln style history passage that's usually about civil rights, women's suffrage, has been absent for the test. They've replaced that with another science type passage. One time they had one on national parks, which was technically the history passage, but realistically, the hardcore Abe Lincoln 1800s Locke and Hobbes Thoreau history passage seems to be gone for the SAT. Now you're probably asking, Nick, why is that gone from the SAT? Well, on the new digital SAT, there is no longer that type of content, most typically. Also, there's no longer long passages, so I think they're slowly starting to transition their content. Whatever content team they have that makes the content for the exams is no longer looking for that kind of content, for that kind of passage. Now, that was typically one of the most difficult passages for students, so anyone out there that was utilizing the strategy, and here's a strategy, of skipping the history passage or going 1, 2, 3, 5, 4, may want to reevaluate that strategy because the history passage may just not be on there. So that has been throwing kids off, so make sure to look out for that. Number two, the math on the digital SAT is slightly different than the math on the paper SAT. So I predict that the last math test on the paper SAT is going to be a little bit weird. The last few tests have had some quirky topics they don't test often, like inequalities, a lot of stuff on vertex form. So make sure to learn all the rules for parabolas. You want to know the x-intercept form, y-intercept form, vertex form. Also be comfortable with inequalities and of course system of equations and everything related to linear equations because those are always on the SAT. So I expect those to be heavily tested on the last paper SAT because that's just what the College Board does. My third prediction is that the scoring on this SAT may be a little bit quirky. This is the last paper SAT. So did the College Board put enough time into this test? Hopefully. Did they have a backlog of tests to use for the last few paper SATs? Hopefully. Or did they slap this together at the last minute or use a backup test that they had because they're putting most of their efforts into the digital SAT? Who knows? But I would expect a difficult math section and a very quirky scoring system. Hopefully the scale aligns with the scales that we've seen earlier, but it seems like the SATs have been getting harder, especially in the math part for the last few administrations. So definitely look out for a challenging math section. Make sure to look out for all those parabola problems. Know the x-intercept form, y-intercept, vertex form, linear equations, system of equations, same old stuff. Also expect absolute values. That has been a common topic on the last few SATs that has not been so tested in the past. Definitely not on the College Board test 1 through 10. So make sure to look out for all that stuff. My fourth prediction is that the College Board is going to go out with a bang. They are a very quirky company. They tend to do things in the opposite way that you would expect. I think people would hope that the last SAT is a great one and it's easy and that students really like it. I think that the exact opposite will happen. I think the last test is going to be very challenging. Hopefully that means it has a good scale, but expect a very quirky test, expect weird reading passages, expect the unexpected. So I think this is going to be off the beaten path. If you're practicing with the College Board tests 1 through 10, I would make sure to look at some of the more recent paper SATs that are available online from 2022 and 2023 to get a better concept of what this test will be like, because I think those are significantly more aligned with what the test will be like than the College Board tests 1 through 10. Now, my fifth prediction is that there's going to be a few throwback math problems. I think in terms of the very tricky math problems, maybe we'll get a hexagon, maybe we'll get some crazy equation that we've only seen on the first few tests. Even though I just said that the tests have adapted over time, I think that the College Board may use this last test as a throwback, as a way to troll you guys into putting some really difficult math problems. So that's one of my main predictions, is expect quirky math problems on this test and make sure that you're prepared to read carefully because they love to put those quirky problems at the end of the exam to make sure that you're on your toes. My final prediction is that this may be one of the best paper SATs ever to take. I think the students are going to be very unprepared that are taking this test. I think a lot of students are going into the paper SAT for the first time and they're actually not really studying for it because they're actually studying for the digital SAT. They just want to get in there and start testing. There's not a lot of seniors taking the December test. I mean, mostly juniors who are unprepared. Frankly, there really shouldn't even be a lot of students taking this test because who would want to take the paper test before taking the digital test? Some students are doing it because they're preparing for the paper test, but I expect a good scale because I think students are going to perform poorly. They're going to be unprepared for this style of the SAT because most of them are preparing for the new style of SAT. So my final prediction is that the scale is going to be very good on this exam. Now, I told you at the beginning of this video, I'm going to give you some tips. Now, here are my top tips for the paper SAT. Number one, on the reading section, you have to make sure to pace yourself. You want to make sure to complete the easy passages in about 11 to 12 minutes so that you have ample time when you do hit a very challenging passage that you're going to be able to take more time. There could be some unexpected weird passages on this test. I think in the last few SATs, I've seen 2 to 3 science-based passages on the test. So if you struggle with those, make sure to save time on the other 2 to 3 passages and then spend that time when you do get to those quirky passages at the end. My second tip on the math section for the quirky problems at the end of section 3, problems 13, 14, and 15, you're going to want to use math strategies such as plugging in or picking numbers. You want to make sure to get those answers any way you can. You're not going to be able to solve every single problem on the test in the conventional way under the time constraints. So your best bet is to grind your way to the answer by using strategies. If you don't know what those strategies are, check out some of my other videos. I go over all of these strategies in them. Also, check out my SAT course online because I will go over those as well. Tip number 3. Now, if this test is going to be a weird one because it's the last paper SAT, make sure to stay focused. Do not give up if you mess up one of the sections. College Board and colleges are saying that you're going to be able to super score across the 2 different SAT tests. So make sure to not give up. If you feel like you've messed up the reading or English parts of the test, still try hard on the math part. Make sure that you do your best because if you do get one good score, that's totally fine for super scoring. You can take a positive from that and you can move on by taking the digital SAT. And once again, guys, if you like this kind of content, you want to learn about the paper and digital SATs, you want to get all those tips to get a 1500, make sure to hit that subscribe button and make sure to drop a comment down below. What's your goal score? Are you taking the digital SAT or only the paper SAT? I'm excited for you guys. I think that it's an amazing new era of SAT testing that's upon us. I think the digital SAT is the best version of the SAT that we've ever had. So for those of you trucking it through the last paper SAT, best of luck to you. And if you have any questions, make sure to throw them in the comment below. I will answer every single one of them. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.